Cool, man. Can you just tell me a bit about yourself?
Yeah. All right. So, okay. So basically, I am at this point in time, I'm a media composer. That's actually the first time, just to say the first time, because I've always thought of myself as an artist, always, and a musician, like, real serious. And the first time my friend said, well, you're sort of a media composer. I was like, media composer? That sounds horrible. What do you mean I'm a media composer? Anyway, so yeah, at this point in my life, I'm a media composer, and to get to that point, I was always big into songwriting. I was always like massively drawn to that. Loved bands growing up. Listened to bands like Pearl Jam. Kind of like quite emotional bands that sort of like that met my needs somehow. And then I went to church when I was a kid, and I kind of got into the music group at church, and I just was really drawn to the idea of songs. So like hymns were perfect for me because they were like verse, chorus, verse, chorus. So that got it really drilled into me when I was really young. And I still do it, like I still do it now. So it's still verse, chorus, verse, chorus. But yeah, and then sort of growing up in England, three brothers with my mum and dad, and just like a really nice upbringing, camping, like good times like that.
And am I right in thinking it's you're from Brighton, that area, right?
Bournemouth.
All the bees on the coast.
Yeah, I know, right? Bristol, Bournemouth.
It's weird because we have this odd connection, don't we? To where, I'm American living in the UK,
yeah,
and you're British living in the States.
Yeah.
And
it's now I'm in Kentucky. Yeah, I know.
Right? It's weird.
Did you meet your wife when you were in America, or did you?
We don't have time in this, but yeah, online back in the day.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. Oh, you're quite ahead of your time then.
Yeah. Yep.
Online. I met Cassie. Yeah, she was doing like a sort of a work placement thing in London, and I went up to do a show with a friend, and we met after show party, all the rest of it. Yeah, there's a lot more to it than that, but yeah. And then we got married and we moved to England, and we lived there for about 8 years, had 2 kids, and so like along with that, I've been doing bands, and then at some point I made good friends with Nathan Johnson, and he was asked to do a score for a film called Brick, and we were housemates at the time in Bournemouth, and hadn't met Cassie at this point. And and it was crazy because it's like, oh, my cousin's doing a movie, so it was like it was kind of that thing of like,
that movie failed and no one ever heard of him again.
No one's ever heard of it. Yeah. So yeah, no, the movie obviously became big, became like a big thing. It was really strange, but at the time, like Brick, but at the time it was like we just and so that was like a big turning point as well, like that collaboration, seeing the way Nathan worked, and that really unlocking something in me, which was a desire to just sort of like mess around with sounds, like start trying things out differently, start like, what about if we lay the double bass on the ground and get some beaters? What about if we use filing cabinets? What about for percussion? And every idea that was thrown out was just like met with this vigor of like, yes, like that sounds amazing. So that project really ignited a lot of creativity in me, and then we did a few more films along the way. But yeah, but bands was sort of still my thing, and then I wound down the band. Eventually did a tour with Nathan in America. Ended up moving to America, Kentucky about 2 years ago with my family, and then really just like the media composition thing, doing short films, working with you on Gauge, which was a little while ago now, wasn't it? But
yeah, 5.
But yeah, no, I think I've jumbled it all together, but that's
good,
in a roundabout way. Yeah.
Could you just briefly, and I know this is a big question, but what inspires you musically? I mean, you talked a little bit about the hymns as a
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I think on one level, the idea of content of songs inspires me. So when you talk about hymns, it's very emotive. It's sort of like this sort of like there's a sort of a willing a desire to connect, like, so that does. But I think on my sort of journey, my musical journey, it's definitely sounds. It's things that are unusual that excite me. So if I listen to a record, actually just at the moment I'm listening to the Charlie XCX record, the new one, and it's killing me, man. I like that single that she's really, that just the crunchy sounds, I love it. So stuff like that really gets me going, and I love all kinds of music. Actually, at one point I worked at a record store called Avid Records, and that was a really big thing for me, because it was the first time I heard like Nick Drake or reggae and jazz proper, like really getting into it, and that opened up my. And so anything new, I get really excited by things that are new and different and unusual, and I think pretty much everything is up for grabs, like if it, but
That's
yeah.
No, it's interesting. I mean, it's a good segue that brings us into your approach for Helena, for the short film that we've made together. Do you just want to talk about maybe how our initial conversations, and then how you kind of approach making the soundtrack?
Yeah. So I mean, you reached out. You were doing another film, which I was really excited about because we did Gage, and that was awesome. So to do another project was really exciting, and you sent me the script. I read the script. I really liked its simplicity. I really liked how like lean it felt, and so that was cool. And then I had a bunch of demos, and I demoed up some more stuff, but straight away I was kind of drawn to this idea of like traveling, wandering, kind of like I don't want to say minstrel because that's the wrong word, but like just the idea that someone has a guitar slung over their back and it's beaten up, and and it just goes with them, almost like that sort of C6 Steve thing, of like jumping on trains with his guitar and playing.
It's lo-fi, isn't it? There's that in a good way, like that's.
Yeah, I think so. And it was really difficult because you've got that Portland thing where you don't want to be like, I never thought of, I want it to sound like Elliott Smith or Portland. It was never that. It was more like, what is the sound of someone whose shoes are, like threadbare, and like, it's not going to be a violin necessarily. I didn't know enough about this person from that point of view. So I felt like it needed to somehow represent her situation where she was at. And then also, so actually you kind of like warmed to a piece that I did just on my phone. And that was great. I was just like, brilliant. Because that happened before with a score, actually. I did for John Hardy. And he picked one off my phone, and I was like, yeah, great. And it really worked. So I was like, I trusted that. I was like, yeah, great. And you've got good taste in music as well. So like, yeah.
You heard it here, folks.
Yeah, that's right. I never would have heard the sound had it not been for you. So,
man. Well, it's all good, man. Yeah, that's
yeah. So I think alongside that, there are also the more sort of sonic palette of the rumbles, the sort of the high frequencies. There's actually like a motif that happens throughout the film, which is the phone. Or is that a motif? But yeah, the phone kind of features, the pay phone at the start, her mobile phone, and then you get her call at the end, like kind of like connecting the dots. So the music at the end is slight, not the credits, but the end it elevates more and has more of a kind of a breakthrough for her. But before that, you get these sort of like drone sounds, and it's really like the wires, the electricity, the connecting, the very tenuous connection that she has to her family. So, and it made me think of which is an incredible score by John Bryan for Punch Drunk Love, and how they did the phone thing. Remember the visual that comes up, and it's like,
it's great.
So I kind of thought about that a little bit as well.
That film is so intense.
Oh, man,
I on the edge of my seat, I'm like, why am I feeling this way? Obviously, the soundtrack, the score has a big.
That was a huge influence on me. That score.
Yeah, I bet.
Like I remember when we were doing Brick, that we were listening to that score, loved it. Brilliant.
And the last track that that we have for Helena, or actually not the last track, not the credit score, but the track for the final scene is really interesting because you've layered it. There's a lot to it, and yet there's still there's a sense of I don't want to give too much away, but completion and hopefulness as well to it.
Yeah. And it was interesting that because I know we had discussions about acoustic guitar and electronics, and I really like that because, again, like coming back to the phone, I felt like the electronics were really valid in the wires and the connections, and that sort of like there's her world, but then there's the world that she's disconnected from.
Totally. And like there's, visually as well, there's just so much dilapidated. We shot this in St. John's neighborhood of Portland, Oregon, from kind of Portland, Vancouver area there. St. John's is one of the areas that hasn't been fully kind of gentrified. It still has that old Portland feel. That's quite interesting. Thanks to our producer Mike to kind of nudge us in that direction. So
yeah, it looks beautiful.
Yeah, man. So that's great. Do you want to just talk about what are you working on now? I know you've obviously done this quite amazing track with Cassie, your partner, and
yeah. I've been doing these little. Well, okay, so just when I moved here, I started to record for Warner Chappell for like their music library stuff. So I have finished an album with that, and I've just been putting out these acoustic video things of me playing songs from that album. So I just did one with Cassie, her incredible voice, and I have like plans to do more, and also talking to them, there's like ideas to do more albums. The next one I want to do is most of my collaborations with Nathan, I've been working as a amongst other things, but as a percussionist, as like a sort of a textural kind of player, and I really wanted to lean into that a little bit for this next project. So I want it to be more unusual. I think the one I've just done is very singer-songwriter. So yeah, that's what's happening with me.
Nice, man. Okay, well, I look forward to hearing that.
Yeah. Oh, in fact, if I can do a plug, then
yeah, please do.
If anyone wants to hear, you might need to post this on your page. Actually, maybe just post it on your page.
Okay.
Because it's got like a code at the end of the. It's like, yeah.
I'll add it. I'll put it as its own.
Read out a code. Yeah.
Cool, man. Do you want to plug any YouTube, social media, any of that kind of stuff?
The YouTube is just the Warner Chappell YouTube. They've posted a couple of videos up there. Bandcamp, my old band, would be kind of cool for people to be directed to that.
Yeah, you want to give the site to it?
Yeah. Shall I say it now, or shall I?
Yeah, say it.
Message. Okay, so
we're not going to edit this.
I'm reading it over here. So the site is newvolunteer.bandcamp.com, and I did 2 records with those guys, and I think they're free online, so you can just download away.
That's great, man. You want to say it one more time, just in case people didn't get it?
Yeah. It's newvolunteer.bandcamp.com, and Nathan Johnson worked with us on both of those projects. If anyone's interested in what Nathan, who just scored Knives Out.
Nice, man. Yeah, exciting.
Plug it, name drop. Despicable. Yeah.
Just name. No, that's good, man. That's great. Hey, man, thank you so much for doing this. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned to our Facebook page. We'll be doing more interviews like this. Hopefully we'll have some good news about screenings at festivals and all that good stuff. Okay. Have a great day. Thank you very much.
Awesome.